Okay. Well, it's 11:30, so I will get started with introductions. Thank you all so much for being here today for our first walking workshop of March into May. The theme this year is stepping through time. So, as you gain more steps and get more movement in, we will be traveling to different historical sites and even talking about different eras throughout the centuries of humankind. So, today we have our very first one, Walking the Silk Road, with our instructor, Cody Crosby. We will also be talking about Steps on the Moon on April 9th. April 17th, we'll be discussing trailblazers, women who walked for change, and then exploring historic trails, and then finishing off with pathways to lasting well-being. And these principles actually come from the Renaissance era. So during walking workshops, what we suggest is either putting in your headphones if you have them, um, and going for a walk as you listen. We have very limited slides, if any, so that you can just concentrate on listening to the content. Or if you need to stay at your desk, stretching, marching in place, just getting your body moving during these workshops. So not only are we benefiting your physical wellness, but hopefully your intellectual wellness. And if you are moving during these workshops, it's typically around 2,000 to 3,500 steps, depending on if you're walking around the building or if you are doing some of those light stretching at your desk. So find the position that works best for you, and we will get started. I'll turn the time over to Cody.
Thanks, Sadie. Like you said, my name's Cody Crosby. I'm a health educator with Employee Wellness, and I'm still kind of a new face around here. So, still learning the ropes and excited to be hosting today. Today's workshop, we're talking about the Silk Road and walking the Silk Road, which is a journey of connection and culture. So, historically, walking has connected people, ideas, and cultures, and it still does today. So to start today, I'm going to do a brief overview of some of the locations along the Silk Road. And hopefully this helps you picture in your mind where these journeys took place and how far apart the spread of culture had to travel. Famously, the Silk Road starts in China. So it began in modern day Xi'an, which is the capital of several Chinese dynasties. From there, goods like silk, paper, porcelain, and spices were transported westward. We're moving on to Central Asia. The route passed through the Taklamakan Desert and the Tishan Mountains, and important trading hubs were established in modern day Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan. These cities were vital cultural and commercial centers where Persian, Indian, and Chinese influences merged. So some very big cultures with very big differences all mingling together. As you move through ancient day Persia, which is now Iran in the Middle East, it passed through Persian's empire, the capital there, and Persian merchants played a key role in facilitating trade and spreading innovations like glassmaking and weaving techniques. This route extended through Baghdad, which became an intellectual center during the Islamic Golden Age. Lots of information and technology was passed along here. Next, we move to Turkey and the Eastern Mediterranean. Goods traveled here through Constantinople, modern day Istanbul, and this created a major gateway to Europe. As this gateway opened to Europe, it was a critical role in the transfer of Greek, Roman, and Islamic knowledge, heading westward into Europe and expanding into those cultures and countries. Next, Europe is on our list. Goods and ideas reached Italy, mostly Venice and Rome, where European merchants helped distribute the silk, spices, and luxury items from China. This helped fuel the Renaissance by introducing scientific and artistic influences from the East. South Asia is another portion of the Silk Road routes. Although it's not usually part of the overland Silk Route, there's small pieces there that are. It was a crucial piece for maritime trade. So the Indian Ocean became a trade network that connected China, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and then Africa. So as we move into Northeast Africa, these goods traveled to Egypt, Alexandria and Cairo, and other North African regions via the Red Sea. African gold, ivory, frankincense, and other spices were exchanged for Chinese silk and Indian goods. So all of these places combined, there was a lot of expansion in goods, in technology and information, and that's what we're kind of going to get into today. Part of that is also that as these people mingled together, they shared bits and pieces of their culture. And that's a big deal. It's meaningful to these people and these cultures and helped create a lot of the societies that progressed to what they are today. So, kind of an icebreaker for today, I want you to think about is as we go through the rest of this workshop, think of a memorable walk you've taken and what made it meaningful. Whether that was a hike to a new place, people that you care about, and also, bonus, if you have been to a historical place and walked while you were there, feel free to relate this workshop to where you visited and visualize it from memory as you move today. Might help make things a little more personal. We're going to move into the history of the Silk Road a little bit more, not just location, but a little bit of what was traded and what historians have found out about the Silk Road. Because there's a lot of records and there's a lot of different information, but this is a brief compilation of some of that. So the Silk Road is neither an actual road nor a single route. The term refers to a network of routes used by traders for more than 1,500 years from the Han Dynasty of China. When the Ottoman Empire closed off the trade with the West, this is when the Silk Roads kind of ended, which is in 1453 CE, a long time ago. The Silk Road was used to describe a well-traveled pathway of goods between Europe and East Asia. The term also serves as a metaphor for the exchange of goods and ideas between diverse cultures. Although the trade network is commonly referred to as the Silk Road, most historians favor the term Silk Routes because it better reflects the many paths taken by traders. The Silk Road extended approximately 4,000 miles across some of the world's most formidable landscapes, including the Gobi Desert and the Pamir Mountains. With no government to provide upkeep, the roads were typically in poor condition. Robbers were common. To protect themselves, traders joined together in caravans with camels or other pack animals. Over time, large inns called caravanserais popped up to house traveling merchants. Few people traveled the entire route, giving rise to hosts of middlemen and trading posts along the way. There was a lot of bouncing back and forth of trading where you knew to be popular and successful. Most commonly, we know about the abundance of goods traveled along the Silk Road. Merchants carried silk from China, like mentioned before, where it dressed royalty and wealthy patrons in other places. Other favorite commodities from Asia included jade and other precious stones, porcelain, tea, and spices. In exchange, horses, glassware, textiles, and manufactured goods traveled eastward. More so than goods, the importance of the Silk Road reflects when it comes to history. Religion and ideas spread along the Silk Road just as fluidly as goods. Towns along the route grew into multicultural cities. The exchange of information gave rise to new technologies and innovations that would change the world. Greek, Indian, and Chinese mathematicians, and scientists exchanged ideas on topics like astronomy and mathematics. The horses introduced to China contributed to the might of the Mongol Empire, while gunpowder from China changed the very nature of war in Europe and beyond. Diseases also traveled along the Silk Road. Some research suggests that the Black Death, which devastated Europe in the late 1340s, likely spread from Asia along the Silk Road. The age of exploration gave rise to faster routes between the East and West, but parts of the Silk Road continue to be critical pathways among varied cultures. The most interesting portion of this to me is while technology generally moved westwards, religions flowed eastward along these Silk Road routes. Buddhism affected China deeply from the Han era onwards through the adoption of Central Asian style Buddhism, and Christianity and Islam had less of an effect during the Silk Road times. The Mongols also played a big role in spreading Islam by bringing in Muslims to live in their empire via the Silk Road routes. That was a lot of information there about religion and technology and goods, but technology and religion have been shown in this example here with the Silk Road of how connection occurs across these different cultures and different people as they travel. So a little discussion prompt here to think about just while you're moving today is, if you could time travel and walk the Silk Road, what would you bring from your culture to share? I'll give you just a couple seconds to think about that one more time. If you could time travel and walk the Silk Road, what would you bring from your culture to share? To answer that for myself, as an example, I think I would share my love for traveling, ironically. Specifically, I like to visit national parks, so I like to spend time outdoors, but I would try to pass on my appreciation for visiting places that have outdoor exploration opportunities and how I connect with nature. That nature connects with me on a spiritual level, and it connects with me on a personal level, and it brings me peace, and it's also something I enjoy spending my time doing. I think that would be something that would be interesting to pass on to somebody who maybe has never been to something like a national park, or they live in a big city and don't appreciate nature like I do. So as you've thought about what you would share, we'll move into how that relates a little bit more to today. So walking is proven to foster connection and connections with ourselves, connections with others, connections with ourselves, whether this is through our communities, our workplace, activities we choose to do, but connecting with ourselves, like I mentioned, through nature, mindfulness, physical activity is a really great way to help our mental health also. So there's some other topics to move into that we can think about as we talk about modern day pilgrimages. So the Silk Road was a really long time ago. And then here's a couple of historical pilgrimages and modern day pilgrimages that people participate in now, and how those connect them to their cultures, to their communities, and to themselves. So pilgrimages have been part of human history for thousands of years, offering spiritual enlightenment, personal reflection, and cultural engagement. Today, many people still embark on long walking journeys for these different reasons. Some examples for what I'm going to go over. The Camino de Santiago is one of the most famous pilgrimages in the world. It's also referred to as the Way of St. James. It's a network of routes leading from Santiago de Compostela, and walkers often say the journey fosters introspection, connection with fellow travelers, and a deep appreciation for history and human resilience. Another one of a modern day pilgrimage is the Hajj, or the pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. It's a pilgrimage required of all Muslims who are physically and financially able to, and the Hajj is a sacred journey to Mecca. Though not strictly a walking pilgrimage, much of it involves walking significant distances as an act of faith and unity with millions of other people. The Kumano Kodo in Japan is a UNESCO World Heritage Pilgrimage route in Japan, known for its stunning landscapes and spiritual significance in Shinto and Buddhist traditions. Walking the trail fosters a deep connection to nature and Japan's cultural heritage. And then one a little closer to home is the Appalachian Trail, is listed here. While not a religious pilgrimage, many hikers take on this 2,200-mile trail and describe it as a transformative experience, learning resilience, self-reliance, and an appreciation for nature. Moving on in this kind of similar category, but not as famous, and not so much of a pilgrimage, but just another category of walking tours. So these are kinds of things you can experience as tourists, and they're popular in cities and historic sites around the world, offering immersive learning experiences that deepen your connection with that place you're visiting. So some examples I pulled up, starting with the Freedom Trail in Boston, United States. It's a 2.5-mile historic walking tour through key sites of the American Revolution, allowing visitors to connect with our country's past. And walking in the footsteps of historical figures fosters empathy for those who shaped history. There's Jack the Ripper Tour in London, United Kingdom, which is a guided walk through the streets of 19th century London, exploring historical events through firsthand locations. Engaging in these experiences brings history to life, creating a personal connection. There's the Berlin Wall walking tour in Germany, my personal bucket list out of these. A route following the remains of the Berlin Wall, offering insights to the Cold War and the impact of division on human lives. Walking through these sites helps visitors empathize with those who lived under oppression and fought for freedom. And lastly, in these walking tours listed is Gandhi's Salt March route in India. Following the path of Gandhi's famous protests against British rule, this walk allows participants to reflect on peaceful resistance and social change. So these last few things that we listed at those walking tours, the Freedom Trail, the Jack the Ripper Tour, Berlin Wall walking tour, and Gandhi's Salt March, all connected to the idea of how walking builds empathy. How we can become empathetic for history and different cultures and people that have gone before us. So a little more on how walking builds empathy is that walking allows us to slow down and engage with our surroundings in ways that other forms of travel do not. So here's some examples. Walking allows us to experience life at a human pace. Walking forces us to be present, notice details, and engage with people and environments in ways that build deeper understanding. Unlike cars or trains, or bikes, or whatever other transportation, walking lets us interact daily with local surroundings, nature, and helps us gain firsthand perspectives on the world that is immediately around us. Walking helps us build empathy through physical and emotional connections. Walking long distances, especially in new places, can be challenging, which mirrors the struggle of past and present travelers. The physical experience of walking also helps us relate to others who have undertaken difficult journeys, whether that's migrants, refugees, or historical figures. Building empathy while walking also teaches us how to break social barriers. Walking in diverse environments introduces us to new people and cultures, fostering appreciation for different ways of life. It also helps us create shared experiences. Whether in pilgrimage, a guided tour, or an independent walk, you can create bonds with strangers, family members, co-workers, and building community and mutual respect. Walking also encourages us to reflect on shared humanity. Many historical events, wars, trades, revolutions, were shaped by people walking across lands vast distances. Walking similar paths allows us to imagine their experiences, cultivating compassion and historical awareness. There's also a piece in there about reflecting on shared humanity by walking, because most people walk. Walking is how you get anywhere. So just as travelers on the Silk Road connected cultures through modern day walkers, these other experiences and other historical areas connect and bridge cultural gaps. So walking provides a profound way to learn, connect, and build empathy for people past and present. So at this time, we have a couple minutes left. We're going to do about 2 minutes of a reflection of mentally visualizing a journey while you're walking or moving today. So you can choose something that I listed from my list here, walking tours or pilgrimages, and maybe try to embody what that would feel like. And this is a good time to practice some mindfulness. So I'll start that 2 minutes, and then we'll come back after that. As we have about 1 more minute of a silent walk, another thing to reflect on is, what does walking reveal to you about the world? What do you notice about yourself as you walk? There's some responses in the chat also. You want to answer those questions. All right. Hopefully you were able to take a minute while you were moving today during this workshop to think about those questions. And hopefully you can think about them on some other times when you're walking and moving, about what walking reveals to you about the world, what you notice, and then what you notice about yourself also. As we wrap up, I just want to talk about the Silk Road again one more time and talk about that the Silk Road, even though we talked about the physical things, the intellectual things, the technologies that were shared, the whole reason the Silk Road worked and that it was successful and established these connections and cultures was because of people. People interacting, people eating together, people traveling together, and oftentimes people that did not know each other before their journey on Silk Routes. So this is also a little plug of encouraging you to be social and encouraging you to meet new people and reach out. And especially during our March into May, there's lots of people around you participating and walking, even if they're not on your team or your participating individual. Maybe join them in a walk or an activity, make a new friend, and help make some new connections. The final reflecting question I'm going to ask, I'll put it in the chat also, so you can just think to yourself, is how can we use walking to build cultural understanding in our own communities? Maybe that's like I suggested, of meeting some new people, discussing their cultures and ideas. Maybe it's what you're noticing while you're walking, like mentioned in the chat about someone's neighborhood, meeting new people and new backgrounds in downtown, talking to somebody about their pet on the walk. I know I have a dog and I always talk about dogs with other people. That seems like a silly connection, but it makes my walk have a little bit more meaning that I stopped and talked to somebody. So as we end today, I just want to close with the Silk Road connected the world, and every step we take today continues that journey of learning and connection among all different types of people and places, even here within Salt Lake County. So thanks for joining today. I hope you got some good movement while we talked and listened today, and maybe sparked your interest about the Silk Road and some historical things. And hopefully you'll join us for more of our walking workshops as we walk through time.